Not gonna lie, boys. I faced some low times over the last month. Some of the biggest monsters I've faced. Depression, anxiety, self-doubt. My last video didn't do the best. I posted the last video I made around online to get some feedback. My Neanderthal brain of mine decided to focus on these two yonkos of the comments section. Thoughts began flooding my mind.
Are they right? Maybe this isn't a good idea after all. This'll just be another thing you half-ass.
But then I saw a notification pop up on my YouTube. I'd forgotten so easily. About my crew, baby! This channel will thrive! We will become the donkeys of decks! The ray gun of red deck wins! The funky of flooded lands! This was a magic moment for me. And if you could allow a nerd to get a little sentimental, I'd like to share some more. This video came from the discovery of a piece of media I had completely forgotten about, something buried so deep in the recesses of my mind that I had to move Chuck E. Cheese slides, the smell of McDonald's, and Lola Bunny statues out of the way to find it. I felt the childlike joy when I did, though. One I haven't felt in years. I was looking at the price of some old Pokemon VHSs I used to have, just kind of wondering what the market for them was nowadays. Scrolling through memory lane, just seeing old Pokemon movie after old Pokemon movie, episode after episode, and going, yeah, I remember watching that. When I scrolled upon this, yeah, I'll let it sink in for you too. I immediately went to YouTube to see if they had a shitty rip of it, and YouTube came in again, and they did. As I watched this shitty YouTube rip of an old VHS I used to watch religiously, it kind of got me thinking. This tape might have been the single reason that I play Magic today. Growing up in a small town in Indiana, hating school and sports, left little options for entertainment for me. One of the first things I remember really being into was the Pokemon TV show. I mean, like who wasn't? So one day after school, my mom brings home this VHS tape from a garage sale called Becoming the Master, the Ultimate Pokemon Guide. I thought, oh, another episode of Pokemon. Awesome. I still remember my heart sinking into my stomach when I realized the whole ass kid that was on the cover. Not a cartoon kid, a real ass fucking person. This wasn't a cartoon. This was real footage of real people playing a card game. It showed kids versing other kids in battle, large collections worth thousands of dollars, trophies, interviews, tips and tricks for winning games. I remember soaking in all the details these supposed masters were willing to divulge to a beginner like me. I watched that VHS every day and every night for weeks. I eventually built up a small collection of Pokemon cards of my own. The artwork sent me into other worlds. The abilities invoked images of fireballs and elements dancing. The cards seemed to glow with potential for hours of entertainment. And to be honest, I never learned to play. My enjoyment started and ended with the cards themselves. Trading, drawing, pretending we were Pokemon out in my pool. I wanted to be the very best that no one ever was. But in all seriousness, that mantra really did speak to me. I wanted to win, but in a way no one else has. And another card game came in that's gameplay fit that mantra perfectly. The year is September 2007, baby. A young 9-year-old me sat in my room playing Donkey Konga, Kids Next Door, whatever I was playing on the GameCube, when my brother comes in. Deck in hand, sits at his desk, and begins to play Hitman on his computer. Now sure, the assassin dealing with contracts was interesting, but my eyes were fixed on a stack of golden sleeves sat on his desk. Seeing my infatuation with it, he began explaining that a friend of his and him were playing Magic the Gathering over at a local game store called Area 51. He gave me the classic red fast, blue control, green stompy rundown, and I was hooked. My brain immediately swarmed with thoughts of, but what if I ran two or even 3 colors? Can I kill other people's stuff? Are there angels and demons? He pulled down a medium white-sized box lined with Magic cards and put it on his desk, and showed me just random cards out of it. I still remember the giddiness of just reaching in and pulling out a random card to read it, and asking him to explain exactly how it worked. I had just helped my grandma, and she had given me $20 a week earlier to buy some Pokemon boosters, but I made the best move of my life. My brother offered to sell me that box of Magic cards for $20. This box was easily worth more than that, so I took that box, more excited than I had ever been in my life, and I had spent the next 2-3 weeks learning as much as I could from my brother about Magic. Eventually realizing that too existed a Magic the Gathering VHS explaining all I needed to know.
The Magic the Gathering starter instruction video.
Studying it the same as I did the Pokemon one. I still remember building decks along with the videos, dropping and adding cards every day, dialing in a green-red deck I'd been working on. This was my first deck. I remember the excitement of driving home from school every day to start deck building. But little did I know, there was a format built around deck building called Draft. So about a month after learning the ins and outs of how sorceries worked, when to cast instants, and whether or not to shock that creature or your opponent's face, my world was shocked. My brother came home asking my mom to take him later that night to something called a draft for a new set called Future Sight. Yeah, that was my first set. Pretty spoiled. I came in and asked what a draft was, not knowing if it was a video game thing or what. He explained that a new set had been released and that a draft was a bunch of people opening booster packs and making decks out of them and versing each other with them. Needless to say, I was buzzing with excitement off the thought of it. The draft ended up being 12-person free-for-all, which I was ecstatic about. More people to attack other than me. I came in 8th and I had a great time. Afterwards, the owner kind of overheard that it was my first tournament, my first time playing, and how much I just really loved the game. And offered me a booster pack of my choosing from behind the counter. I chose Ravnica City of Guilds, my rare, Wormweaver Coil. I couldn't believe this card. My Kavu Primarchs, my Emberwild Augurs would be massive with this on it. The deck builder was born that Future Sight draft, and he never died. Shards of Alara League was where your boy got his rules knowledge and gameplay finesse. Our local game store, Area 51, had unfortunately closed and gave way to a new one, Games and Gadgets. This quickly became where I spent 95% of my time. Playing video games on their giant TV, looking at new cards that came in, thinking of new decks to make, watching and asking players for tips and tricks for getting better. I quickly became friends with the employees. One day, one of the employees told me about a league they were starting, where you would get 5 packs at the beginning, make a deck out of them, every week come in with $5 to get another pack to add to your deck. I ran a green-white life gain deck. Yeah. That taught me a lot about the baseline rules of Magic that I follow to this day. Removal is important. How do you plan to win? And of course, your life is a resource. It doesn't matter if you win at 60 life or 1 life. This tip still rings in my head today. My league record was one of the worst out of everybody by the end, but my green-white life gain strategy gave way into my favorite deck to this day. White Weenie. The next few years I began crafting different versions of a White Weenie deck that I played against my friends. White Knights, Knight of the White Orchid, Sigiled Paladins, the classics. Trying to dial it in and find the best version. My version. Finally dialing in a version I was proud of, I think I was finally ready for my first Friday Night Magic. I waited all week to finally release this deck on the public. When Friday finally came around, I was horrified to learn that our normal FNM was doing a Modern Night this Friday instead. I asked if I could still play with a standard deck. One of the employees, of course, said, yeah, of course you can. I don't know how good it's going to do, but yeah. An employee that I was pretty close with, we'll call him Mike, pulled out a playset of a card called Figure of Destiny from behind the counter. This is still one of my favorite cards to this day. He looks at me and goes, do you have a playset of these? I shook my head no, as he handed me the playset. And he goes, here, you use these tonight. I was I think, 9, 10 years old. And he handed me a playset of these cards that were worth a pretty penny back in the day. I was so excited to get to use this powerful card. This upgraded my deck so much. He helped me take 4 cards out to replace them with. And I proceeded to take first place at this modern tourney with the standard White Weenie deck. Afterwards, I desleeved the Figure of Destinies. I gave them back to the store. I stayed at the store till probably midnight, which was a good 2 hours past when they closed, just talking to the employees and showing them my deck list and them telling me good card ideas, and I still just remember this feeling of like, oh, this is why this game is one of the best in the world. 2010 is easily the most important year of my Magic career because of this video. This video shows some of the first official rulings and videos of people playing Commander, referred to in the video and back then as EDH. It was nothing more than a fan-made format that judges played in between rounds. But it excited me. 100 cards, one of each, every game is different, and you choose a giant legendary creature to run and base your deck off of. I immediately went to the game store and began looking for commanders, pooling through pile after pile, case after case of legendary creatures, enchantments, artifacts, stuff to base a deck around, anything that would kind of trigger an entire deck list off. Eventually I came across my all-time favorite commander, Teneb the Harvester. slowly building up my favorite deck of all time, Teneb Reanimator. The beginning of a new format and a new deck building mindset excited me, enough to make a YouTube channel. This YouTube channel. You can't find any of my old videos, unfortunately, but on December 10th, 2010, MTG Mindslaver was born. Dedicated to learning and building in this new format together with the community, I began uploading deck text, gameplay, and tip videos. I still remember the first $100 check that came in. Took months to finally build up enough for YouTube to actually send something to me. But still, I remember showing my family and friends the money that I made off this silly cardboard game. It justifies this game in their minds as something you can actually be good at, that's something you could participate in, something you could thrive in. As my friends began to play more gameplay videos were uploaded, and uploads as a whole kinda died out. As friends and I slowly lost interest with the release of Shadows over Innistrad, my Magic playing faded into a 5-year hiatus. I stopped playing. I couldn't play. I sold my cards. Funnily enough, for $20. 2021 comes around, and after a 5-year gap of not playing, I began going to a new local store trying to get a feel for the new Magic environment. Golgari Mana Bar. The new set? Strixhaven. Strixhaven brought with it 17 sets worth of new commander cards that I had missed out on. My spark for deck building got reignited as I built deck after deck after deck, finding out all the new strategies, the new powerhouses, the new staples, and then it all came flooding back. People in the store began explaining new mechanics, new commander decks, offering me free cards to start a new collection. I remembered that this game is amazing. I remembered what this game does to people. It promotes a camaraderie, a think tank, an empathy of sorts. After a war, the loser never asks to see the winner's armory. After a game of Magic, the loser always wants to see the winner's deck list. One day at the shop, the owner takes me to the side and offers me a job opening some packs on stream and running the shop a few days a week. I gladly accepted and began fulfilling my 7-year-old self's dream of getting a paycheck from Magic stores. As I worked and began discussing Magic, playing Magic with the customers, recording Magic, I remembered the love that I had for creating content for this amazing game that was such an influence on my developing years, and the rest, I guess, is self-explanatory. The blessing of Strixhaven being enough to pull me back in, being offered the job, my brother selling me his collection for $20, the store employees letting me use those Figure of Destinies, my mom bringing me home that Pokemon VHS, all of it never slips my mind. I hope this reminded you guys of your childhood, or maybe how you discovered this fantastic community, or this fantastic game, or any game. I love you guys, and I love this game, and I'll see you guys next time.